from. I mean, he'd had a life as an indentured servant coming over from Ireland, went to Minnesota as a child, terrible life, boxed for a living, fighting, bare-fisted fighting. He fought Indians in the Indian Wars. He tried farming, didn't like that. And he, ran guns from Chile. Had a fascinating life, terrible as it was. And I thought, this would make one great book with a recording. But he would say, oh, okay, and the next day he says, I don't want to do a book.
You say dead people are manipulative in a lot of cases. You said,
well,
was he manipulating you?
Yeah, well, sure. Well, that's why he was lying, because he was jerking me around. But the thing was that while I didn't know what was going on, look at it this way. You've got all these people abandoned in this gloomy, predatory world. They never see anyone leave, ever. They have children there. It's a prison state. They don't see God. They don't see, they're attacked by demons, reptilians anyway. They have that. And in the last couple of years, they're hunted for food now. It's gone from bad to a nightmare. But in the past, when it wasn't so bad, they didn't think I was ever going to be able to help them or anything. I was strictly a patsy, that they were going to jerk around for a while for entertainment's sake, because they're bored and they have very little going on over there.
So why did Francis quit lying to you?
Because I found out what was really going on when he finally fessed up that it was him and his friends talking, and then I started reversing him. And then at first, I tried to get rid of him for months, and finally I said, well, let's start over again. Let's have a truce. And then he was amenable to that. He really wanted to.
So asking for a truce really helped out.
And the fact that he knew he couldn't lie anymore.
What was life really like on the astral realm once he and his friends began sharing honestly with you, knowing that you had the reverse speech tool to find out whether or not they were lying to you? What did you begin to find out?
They live pretty much like we do, except it's darker, more predatory. They have to make money. They do mostly by stealing, gambling. People steal constantly to get things. They're drug addicts there. I talked to Geraldine. She's a heroin addict. They get together and have orgies just because that's nothing much else to do. They try to get business deals going, which is usually kind of seedy stuff. I actually talked to, or he was supposed to have business dealings with a man who was part of the Manson family.
TJ.
It was TJ. That didn't pan out, but it's very dark. It's very gangs, street gangs. He would talk about the gangs are in the city tonight. It was just not a place you wanted to be.
How did Francis's friends on the other side treat him?
They mostly didn't like him. He wasn't very popular because he was a pain in the neck.
And what became of them?
They all went to the Pleiades.
Okay, now, before we get to that part of the evolution of what happened with you and in your contact with Francis, at one point you said you realized, and in your own words, that I just knew this had nothing to do with God, and you began to research this dark world, reading both the Egyptian and Tibetan books of the dead and lots of UFO material. What did you discover during that period?
Well, the Egyptian and the Tibetan books of the dead both talked about alligators and in this nether world, that could consume you. But it was, I think it was Raymond Fowler who had written a book, mostly did the Andreasen Affair books, and he had this statement that said, and I never forgot it, he said that it could be that the UFO death is the ultimate UFO abduction. I'll never forget that line. Then I also read it, Linda Howe talked about these underground bases and how they could take the soul container, these manipulations of human beings done by these entities, and some of them were reptilian. But it just, the idea of children, I could never get past that. That's really what got me going on.
Tell me, what do you mean the idea of children?
The idea of children in that dark world.
And why did that bother you so much?
Because I felt that if people were there because of their bad karma, that children didn't have enough time to create that bad karma. The thing that there was a family, it was a murder-suicide, and they moved into Francis's house for a while, and it didn't work out because Francis kept making moves on the mother, but and so they finally moved out. But Francis said if they go to jail, that's when he said that the prison guards would rape the children. Now, what does that have to do with your karma or, learning your lessons? It was all wrong.
But can I throw something in here?
Yeah.
This is, I think it's significant. And this came up in the Robert Monroe material about the Loosh. There's a chapter in Far Journeys where Robert Monroe talks about there was an extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional something that created this world. And one of the primary sources of Loosh, which is emotional energy that they feed on, that humans are a hybrid creation that gave off the best and the most pure form of Loosh. Loosh being emotional energy that provides food for this, whatever it is, reptilians or whoever, that within the human experience, the finest and the most pure form of Loosh came from pre-adolescent children. In satanic rituals, that pre-adolescent children are used primarily in certain satanic rituals because of they give off the most pure form of emotional terror that you can imagine. From our point of view, it's perverse. From their point of view, it's filet mignon. This is the best form of food that we can get. And
They keep saying that to me. This is how we eat.
Right, this is how we eat. This is how they eat.
Like, that makes it all okay.
But children are primary source of food.
Yeah, that's true.
What led up to the Pleiadians coming to help these people escape?
I'd been praying and praying and praying every night, and I talked to the people, and I would tell them that I'm trying to get the people in heaven, in the higher planes, to help. And what I told them is I'm praying to organize prayer groups, and I'm talking to these higher awarenesses in heaven to get prayer groups, because I said there's got to be some way that you can be lifted out of these lower planes. And I would talk to the people every day, and they would all gather, because I was the first person who was giving them any kind of hope. That's what they told me.
But how are they hearing you?
I would talk on recorders, and then they would...
How are they talking to you back?
On my recorders. EVP. I can play something.
Do they have technology on their side?
Yes. They use recorders on their side.
Ah, okay.
They have recorders.
Gotcha.
Did you suspect that you were confabulating this whole scenario for your own emotional benefit?
I did. When the Pleiadians first showed up, I thought that there was a good chance that I was making this all up because I wanted it to happen so badly. And the only thing that convinced me that this was not true was Francis was telling me that there was a ship that was taking people out, a transport into the Pleiades. And other people in the area were speaking back and talking about this ship, and that the Pleiadians were helping them get out of that world.
But you had never been talking, you had never specifically said, well, I want the Pleiadians to rescue you.
I know.
Just any higher...
No, I was
rescue.
thinking people in heaven. I wasn't thinking Pleiadians. Okay. No.
So, how did you begin to hear directly from the Pleiadians?
I hit the record button in my software in my SoundForge software. I was always experimenting, and one day I hit record, and I didn't have a recorder, nothing going in. So I let it run for a minute, and there was just this flat line. There were no wave patterns. So I pumped it up, and it was shh, a lot of white noise, and I started to hear these people saying, "We're the Pleiadians. We're trying to talk to you." And then I was like,